Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we've got Nativity parishioner Wayne Gioioso. Wayne is in real estate, and I've got to tell you, it was such a joy getting to talk to him. This is a little bit different than some of our regular interviews. In here, Wayne is talking about what it is like being one of those high capacity givers that we talk about. So you're going to get to hear his background, his faith journey, and then you're going to get to hear the advice that he's got for pastors when reaching out and asking from someone that's in his shoes as just an incredible philanthropist. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hi there, Wayne. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Melissa. Glad to be here.
And Tom, you're back. Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you back on the podcast.
I always come on when there's people I want to talk to, and Wayne's always somebody.
Oh my gosh. I don't know that you should say that, Tom. I don't want other people who are on the podcast to feel left out.
Good point. I want to talk to everybody. But.
Well, Tom and I have a bromance. We have a mutual.
I love it.
Yeah.
Already, I can tell this is going to be a fun conversation. All right. Well, Wayne, tell us a little bit about you. I know you and Tom know each other so well, but share with our listeners, where are you from? Tell us about your family and what you do for a living.
Okay. Well, I'm from the Towson area. Grew up around here. Went to school here, Loyola High School, Towson University, and met my wife. She was at Loyola University, Tom's alma mater, and we got married. We have 4 children. Now I have 7 grandchildren. Can't believe that. 8 on the way. 8, that's how many children Tom has. He has 8. So I'm going to have as many I always wanted to have as many children. I had half as many. Now I have as many grandchildren as he has children. So anyway, they're a lot easier, Tom, when you have grandchildren, believe me. So, and what do I do? Well, I'm a real estate investor, developer, and I've been doing that most of my career. I did a few other things when I got out of school, but been in real estate ever since then. And I'm blessed to, most of my family is involved in the business in some fashion. So I get to see them every day. And my wife, she's jealous. Like, oh, you get to see the kids all the time at work. And of course she sees them too, because they all live here. We're blessed that they all stayed in town.
Yeah, Wayne's like how to do life right. Like, you just look at Wayne and where he is and his great family and success in business and great faith, and we'll get to it. But yeah, like Wayne's like, all right, what did Wayne do? Good to have him on, because I want to do the same thing to get where Wayne got.
Thank you. You're being too kind, but yeah. I say the same about you.
Well, let's talk about this, Wayne. So how did you get into real estate, and what led you to build this business that one day would be one where your family could join you as well?
Well, it's kind of a circular route, okay? Because I started out when I was young. My father, who was passed away a couple of years ago, God bless his soul. He was a very type A alpha personality, and I worked for him. He made me work for him. When I was a kid, I had to literally dig ditches. I learned to do electricity, sheetrock, plumbing, and what I learned was I didn't like to do it. I mean, I could do it, and I know what a good job is, but I really didn't like to do it. And my father was the kind of person that he was just a hands-on guy, old school, didn't believe in debt. He wanted to do everything himself. If he could fix it, he wasn't hiring someone to fix it. I want to hire someone to fix it. And, I just had a completely different business model. So he was buying houses and fixing up houses and apartments in the city. What I knew I didn't want to do was be in real estate. So when I got out of school, I started selling insurance, and I sold advertising, and then I bought a house. My father came to me and said, hey, I have this house in Hamden. You can buy it for $30,000. You need $5,000 to get in it. And I had saved about $5,000. So I bought this house and got a loan, and I rented it out, and I made, about $100 a month profit. And I was a finance and economics major in college. And, I thought knew what I was talking about. So at the end of the year, when I did my taxes, the accountant said, "Oh, you get depreciation in real estate." And I was like, "What is that?" Like, they never taught me that in school. And I said, "Oh, now I know why my father's doing this." So a light bulb went off. But I said, I know how to do it better, differently. And so anyway, I decided to get into real estate, and that's what I did.
Wow. Now, what do you think made you successful in building that business? And maybe what were some of those key lessons that you learned along the way?
Well, that's a good question. So early on, when I was a kid, and I don't know if we'll get into this or not, but I had a grandfather who was Baptist. My mother was Baptist, but she became Catholic when she married my father. But I had a grandfather who was Baptist and even preached. And so he used to, I knew John 3:16 when I could talk. Like, he would just walk around saying that. So for some reason, I started reading Proverbs. He gave me a Bible, and I was reading Proverbs, and I always prayed for wisdom. So that was one thing. So I was blessed with, the grace. God gave me the grace, to some degree. I have some wisdom regarding business. And then I came up with a model, a basic model, and I've been refining it every day since then. And I based it on some basic principles, like tortoise and the hare. I was like, I just used things that I knew about. So I was like, tortoise and the hare. Okay. That was a cool story when I was a kid. Oh, it actually means something now. So I was like, okay, slow and steady, right? I don't have to be the biggest, the best. I'm going to go slow and steady. And that taught me probably one of my most important lessons, which was delayed gratification. Mm. And, some people say that the best entrepreneurs, or you can tell if a child is going to be a good entrepreneur, they have these tests. I'm sure there's different studies, but I read this one study where they tested children, and if they could have delayed gratification, like eating a candy bar now or getting 2 tomorrow, right? You're good at, you could be an entrepreneur. So I was really good at delayed gratification. I drove used cars. I bought used everything. I negotiated every penny. And I was really, like Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny earned, all these things that you hear when you're a kid. I started have real life experiences and understand what they meant. So, all these things and reading kind of filtered into that. And, and then it was biblical, like build your house on, on stone and, not on a sandy foundation. And so I just took all these things and, if I like them and it feels right, I've kind of added into my model. But probably the biggest thing was delayed gratification and, working harder and longer and sacrificing, and then mentors. I was just so blessed with incredible mentors, and my main mentors, if they haven't passed away, I'm still friends with them, and I call them, and and some of them are retired, and I call them and have chats with them and go see them, and which is really interesting to like talk about your success with your mentors. So that's been great. But that was, I would say, really the key thing was with those couple of items.
Wayne, where did your model come from? I don't know, don't want to get us too far off here because we have a lot of else to get to, but that was a model you developed yourself, or you borrowed from others, or how did you come up with that model? I borrowed it from whatever, from fairy tales, from the Bible, from, there was a guy named Henry Knott who was a huge Baltimore developer, and he had a saying, build for the masses, live with the classes, build for the classes, live with the masses. Again, you hear this, I didn't know what it meant, but then a light bulb went off and I figured, what that means is if you build, for instance, big houses, then you could go broke and building for the classes because that model is fragile. But if you build for the masses and you build houses that more people can afford, anyway, I took that and I've done this, probably have a dozen examples of this.
And I would take that and I'd go, okay, how does that fit into what I'm doing? And how it fit was, I realized, for instance, in my model of buying office buildings, retail buildings, and now I've expanded into some other things, but I said, where's the mass market? So in my market, 75% of office leases are 3,000 square feet or less. So I go, okay, that's what I'll concentrate on. And I could go down a rabbit hole and tell you why that works, but it worked for me. So.
Yeah, because you're very good. I know from other conversations we've had, and you're very disciplined in where you'll go. You know your lane, you know what you're doing, you know what you're not going to do. And so, yeah, that's
another thing is that's part of delayed gratification, right? Like you have to be disciplined and like not, follow the shiny object, not, the siren call, so to speak, in Odyssey, like don't follow that. And, that's something that I've been able to, to do. And part of my model is never let my ego get involved. Because if I'm trying to buy a building and it doesn't fit my model, but then, and this has happened, and I go, you know what? I want to sign on that building because I want people to think I own it or know that I own it. And I go, no, that's the wrong reason. And to this day, I've never done that. I've never bought a building that didn't fit my model. I just walk away. So discipline, and it really just came from understanding that I have an ego and understanding that, okay, you got to control it. And so I've been able to do that.
Yeah, it's such good stuff. Again, in church work, even in ministry, I'm probably really guilty of following the shiny objects. Everyone will tell you that. And so that's really good. That's just a good word to hear. I need to hear that right now.
I think that's a great message for all of the parish leaders. And Wayne, I think one thing that I would just love to shed more light on is that you were praying for wisdom and you looked through the Proverbs. And I think that's just something so beautiful. And part of why you're so successful is because you brought God into all of this. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about that faith journey. I am fascinated that your grandfather was a Baptist. Your mom had this conversion. Talk to us about your own faith journey. What was that like?
Yeah, there's quite an arc to that, I would say. I was blessed with mentors, whether it was my grandfather, and my other grandfather as well, who was Catholic and Italian from Italy. He got us to go to church every Sunday. But when I was young, I had a foot in both camps. I was raised Catholic, but I also went to Baptist church, and I understand it. I mean, I was drinking grape juice, which I thought was pretty cool as a kid. Why don't we have that over there? And eating little pieces of bread. And I was just explaining this to my son the other day. Like, I didn't get it then, but years later, I came to understand what transubstantiation is. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't even understand that the Baptist, it's a symbol to them, and and it's actually Christ to us, and but those things that you learn, along the way. But so I really had some pivotal moments. My grandfather had Parkinson's disease, and like I said, he would John 3:16, and he would just say that all the time. He never drank, family parties. He was just such a role model. And so he was dying, and he was in the hospital over at St. Agnes Hospital, and he lived in Catonsville. So St. Agnes is a Catholic hospital. We just happened to be there. And so he was lying. He couldn't really talk. And wow, I haven't told this story. So I'm getting choked up.
Take your time.
Anyway, so he's lying there, and he can't really talk. He can just kind of blink and like guttural sounds. So, I'm talking to him, and I said, "Hey, would you like me to read the Bible to you?" Mm-hmm. He said, "Yeah." So I go out, and anyway, there were some nuns out at the station, and I was like, they have to know where a Bible is. Hey, do you guys have a Bible? And they go, yeah, they're in every room. They're in the drawer. Yeah, so you can figure that out. So I go in, I get the Bible out of the drawer, and I should have known the answer to this question, knowing my grandfather, but I was like, hey, what book do you want me to read? And So, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and he loved John, like Baptists love the book of John. So I go, okay. Wow, excuse me. So anyway, I start reading the book of John, and he's just like lit up. And anyway, he started to get more animated. And so I'm reading the book of John. And at one point I realized, like, I've never read the book of John. Like, I'm raised Catholic. I know the parables, and I know, Jesus turned, water into wine and, raised Lazarus. I know all this stuff, but I never really read it. Like, for whatever reason, my Catholic education, we didn't sit down and read the Bible. Well, the Baptists read the Bible. So I realized, okay, well, I've never really read the Bible. So for a couple of days, I'm in there, like, reading the book of John out loud to my grandfather. And so then I went to my parents' house, and I remembered he had given me a Bible when I was a kid. So I found it, thankfully, on my father's bookshelf, and in it, it was a Protestant Bible, and it said, I take, Lord Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I wrote my name in there when I was 16 and had the date. I didn't even remember that. Like, I was like, wow. Like, I knew he'd give me a Bible, but I didn't remember all that. So anyway, I started reading the Bible, and I never got through it. Although I'm doing something great now. The Bible in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz.
Yes.
Oh my God! And day 101, it's like that fits my learning style. To sit and read, but I'm just listening to it anyway. For anybody who wants to read the Bible, it works for me. So at that point, I said, okay, that was, and I was, how was I? I was probably about 25 or so. And then the other thing that happened was I was blessed to go to Loyola, knew a bunch of Jesuits, one in particular who I met when I was a sophomore at Loyola High School. And I have another saying, there's magic in boldness. So, you don't want to be obnoxious, but you don't want to be a wallflower. You have to be bold about things. So, like, I never would have met my wife if I hadn't gone up to her. Hey, how you doing? So Father Waters was a teacher at Loyola, but I did not have him. But he was given a seminar. We had these classes where, you could go listen to other teachers speak. So he was talking about social service, and I went to listen to him. And afterwards, I went up and introduced myself as a sophomore, and I was pretty shy. Anyway, to this day, he's my spiritual director, great friends with him. And then, that turned into, I'd meet with him regularly. And then he explained the Ignatian Exercises to me, which I never learned in high school, interestingly. Now they teach that at Loyola, but, and Loyola College or University has, Father Tim Brown does Ignatian Exercises every year. They start in the fall. So I did the Ignatian Exercises, Annotation 19, but then I also did it a couple of other ways. And that changed my life, like 100%, like transformed every fiber of my being. And so that was really powerful. Yeah.
What happens when parish leaders stop standing still and start taking bold steps forward? Well, come find out and join us at the 2027 Rebuilt Conference. Pastors, parish staff, and ministry leaders from around the country will be gathering and joining together at Church of the Nativity in Timonium, Maryland, to experience what it looks like when a parish is fully alive and aligned on mission. The Rebuilt Conference is for parish leaders by parish leaders. By joining, you'll hear practical strategies and real stories of parish renewal. You'll get to connect with leaders facing the same challenges you are and leave feeling encouraged, equipped, and ready to move forward with clarity and confidence. So join us May 3rd and 4th, 2027 for 2 full days focused on parish renewal, discipleship, and building a thriving Catholic parish. Join the waitlist today at rebuiltconference.com to receive conference updates, speaker announcements, and early bird pricing before tickets open publicly. We can't wait to see you in May.
Wow, that's awesome. I never heard, I mean, now you say you never told that story about your grandfather. I don't, that's such a cool story. And so you're trying to comfort your grandfather, and then God works through that in that time and works in you and connects you. And that, you know, just matter too of all of us of planting seeds, you know, like you've got these children now, Wayne, you know, you can be planting seeds for them of faith, you know, that will take root, and you don't know how it'll take root.
Right. Yeah. Good point, Tom.
Oh my gosh. I think that's incredible. And I think it also just goes to show like the beauty of being ecumenical, right? Like of just understanding the different parts of different denominations as well. And letting, you know, you be impacted the way you have, especially from your grandfather. I mean, that led you to reading the book of John. And now you're reading, I have to tell you, I love the Bible in a year too. It's so good. Just it helps. It's such an easy way to just kind of break it down into bite-sized pieces. Yes. So Wayne, I would love for you to share with us how you connected the dots between growing in generosity and faith. What has kind of helped you with that, or maybe who was a role model for you with that?
So I think the first role model was probably Father Bill Waters, the Jesuit priest who's been my spiritual advisor, and to this day. And so he has this way about him. He's never answered a question directly. Like, I got a problem. What should I do? Oh, well, do this. Like, that's kind of my style, right? I'm a fixer. Like, oh, well, it's easy. You just do this. Why aren't you doing this? Because you will fix the problem. He's never said that to me. And like, I've always tried to get there, but I don't know, I'm too anxious or type A or whatever. But he answers my questions with questions and comments and really just through his actions. So he was, you know, so giving, like with time, he's always available. And, you know, hey, I got an issue. Can we meet tomorrow at, you know, 8 or 5 or whatever? Yep, no problem. I can do it at 4:30. He's always available. So ever since, you know, I met him when I was, about 16 years old. So eventually he got me involved he started several schools here in Baltimore for underprivileged kids in the city. And he got me involved. And he was always so giving. I was like, well, of course I'm going to give back to him. I mean, like, you know, what can I do to help you with time and money, et cetera? And then I had a nun in 3rd grade, and her name was Sister Suzanne. And you guys probably aren't old enough, but there used to be, Sally Field had this show back then called The Flying Nun.
Flying Nun, yeah.
And she was like this nun. It was kind of like, I don't know, big personality. Well, that was this nun, Sister Suzanne. And she was just like, she took us on field trips, and she got somebody to show up with a truck, and we all threw our bikes in there and doing stuff we weren't even supposed to do. And she was just great. And one day, like, I mean, I didn't have I didn't even know she knew who I was. So I didn't have any like particular relationship with her, you know, different than any other kid in the class. But one day she's trying to teach a lesson. And so she said, I don't know what happened, but something happened. And she was trying to teach a lesson about giving. And I think one kid must have maybe stole somebody's lunch or grabbed some, I don't know what happened. So she says, see Wayne Gioioso right here? He would give the shirt off his back to help you. And I was like, what? I was like, you know, you talking to me? Like, I never thought of myself that way. And it was kind of weird because when I started to help Father Waters, I was like, you know, like all my life, it was kind of like the seed, like you were talking about, Tom, got embedded. And I was like, man, I got to live up to that. Like, I don't know. I'm not that person. I don't know how to live up to that. But I was like, well, she believed in me. I got to live up to that. And that's a whole other story. Like I reconnected with her. I found her after I did the Ignatian exercises, because the Ignatian exercises, you go through this whole process of like, who are you? Who do you know? Who are the people that formed you? And much like this conversation, but and so I reconnected with her and we became great friends, and she just passed away last year. But, so I was always trying to live up to that, if that makes sense.
I think she planted some of those seeds in you too, and I think it also, Wayne, without us even asking, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about the impact that a Catholic education made on your life too. And we work with so many parishes that have schools. And a lot of times, running a parish can be difficult. Running a parish with a school can be very difficult. And it just is so great to hear how you were so formed. I mean, you can tell stories all the way back from third grade and how that helped to shape the man that you are today, which I think is just such a beautiful testament to Catholic education.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that.
Now, you've had these, what did you call it, as far as like your framework for your work, right? Like if it doesn't fit in this, I'm not going to do it. A model. Thank you. Do you have a model for giving? Like which kinds of organizations or which types of projects are you most drawn to?
Well, authenticity is really the key to me. My wife Holly and I, for what I was going to say for whatever reason, but really because of Father Waters, he was all about education, and the education that I received, like if I didn't have that education, I wouldn't be the person I am today, including the schools, but including Ignatian exercises and prayer and how to pray, etc. So I would say authenticity, but I ended up, and Holly and I ended up really, when I started getting involved with boards and giving, it was for schools. So that was kind of how we really started.
So it kind of began too with, you knew the impact it had on you, and so you want to pass that impact on to others. You've received, you want to give to others in that same way. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm in the back of my head, like those seeds, I remember reading a book about Mother Teresa, and Mother Teresa said, give till it hurts.
Oh. So
like, that is so powerful, like give till it hurts. And I try not to remember that one. That's a tough one to live up to. And, that's my ultimate goal, is give till it hurts. But, that like, how powerful is that?
Wow. And I was just going to ask about, what sort of joy do you experience from giving? And now that you're saying give to what hurts, I feel like, I don't know, maybe those two can go hand in hand. Talk to us about what was some of that joy that you and Holly have felt after making a big gift.
It's very powerful. Like, there's nothing like the joy of giving. And again, the things you hear when you're a kid, tortoise in the hare. Well, the more you give, the more you receive. Yeah, everybody's heard that, right? Well, I had a literal experience of the more you give, the more you receive. And I had lunch with Tom one day. You remember this, Tom? We were at a restaurant in Towson, and Tom's talking about the first campaign. This was in 2014. And Tom came to me with an ask, hey, we're going to build a new sanctuary. How much do you want to, I want to meet with you and talk about it. Okay, fine. And we should talk about how people approach other people, because I have some interesting thoughts about that. But anyway, Tom and I are having lunch. And so Tom, in his very, authentic way, hey, we'd like you to make a pledge. And I said, okay. I knew this was coming. Holly and I talked about it. I'm going to give you X. And Tom goes, oh, that's great. God is my witness, right, Tom? It wasn't 30 seconds later, probably the biggest storm you've ever seen. We're sitting in the window. We're in Towson on Allegheny Avenue, and outside, right on the other side of the window, the biggest storm you've ever seen. And there's a farmer's market. The umbrellas, the stands are blowing all over the place. It was crazy. It just came out of nowhere. So Tom and I are looking at each other laughing, and I go, I'm not sure if God's happy or sad.
There was a crack of thunder. It was like,
it was
thunder.
crazy.
Wow.
It was like the craziest weather you've ever seen. So, like, I don't know if God's happy or mad. And I go, I didn't talk to Holly about this, but I'm going to give you X more. And Tom goes, okay.
I did say, you sure you want to talk to Holly about that? Said,
and I go,
oh no, it's God. That's
no,
God.
we gotta, like, something's happening here. Well, then it starts hailing, like crazy hail, like big hail balls, right? And so we're like, and I looked at Tom and I go, I guess it wasn't enough. I go, all right, we'll go X plus Y plus Z. But I want to talk to Holly about that one. But I'm pretty sure we're going to do that because, this is crazy. So, okay. It wasn't 5 minutes. The weather clears up. Wow. We walk out. We walk back to my office a block away. And Tom says, wow, I'm glad it cleared up because I want to take the kids to the pool today. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to when it rained. It was some sort of squall or whatever you call it. I don't know. But talk to Holly, of course, we gave X plus Y plus Z. And then, craziest thing, I was working on some real estate deals, and I won't go into specifics, but these real estate deals that I was working on, the income out of those became so much higher that it was within $2,000 of equaling what I had committed to give to the church per year.
Wow.
It was so anyway, the more you give, the more you receive. And that was so powerful for me. So anyway, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
Wow. I mean, Wayne, I love that you're so in tune with your faith that you can feel like this wasn't a coincidence, right? This is God very clearly telling you, do this, trust me, I've got you. And he provided all of that. That's incredible.
Yeah. I'm glad Tom's here because it kind of sounds made up or a movie or something, right, Tom?
I shared a little of that story with Melissa actually on the way, and I said, I don't know if Wayne's going to want to talk about it because I talk about the fun of asking people for a gift because people are intimidated, and that's why we're having you on, Wayne. They feel so scared, and it is scary being the person asking too. I don't know how, but then you get fun stories like that where you see God kind of move, and so that is one of my favorite stories to share. Yeah. So I wasn't going to bring it up, but glad you did. You mentioned you had some other thoughts there too, and also I'd like to hear too. If there's any more on your philosophy of giving, or how you go about that you could share with people. And it sounded like you had some other thoughts to share too, like about what maybe works or doesn't work when people talk to you about supporting their work.
Yeah. So I would say, if you're going to give, there's a philosophy in business of being a shotgun or a rifle. And my early career, I was a shotgun. I was doing all kinds of real estate. Then I decided, if I'm a rifle, it goes farther. Sorry to use such crude metaphors, but it's just what I use. So a rifle goes farther than a shotgun. And I was trying to figure out in my business model, how do I scale? That wasn't even a word back then. This was like the late 90s. I was trying to figure out how to do real estate, but I wanted to do one thing over and over again, like a McDonald's, right? They do the same thing over and over. So I finally figured it out after reading various books and prayer, et cetera, and Proverbs. So I figured out what I should do is do one thing and do it really well. So I started out buying office buildings, and I was like, okay, I want to be the best at that. I'm going to buy office buildings. And then later I'll, from a position of strength, do other things, but I'm going to be the best I can be. And if somebody calls me about something else, buying a warehouse, whatever, nope, not going to do that. So I started selling. I sold on the margins, bought in the middle. So the middle was office. The margins were all the other properties that I had. So I would sell, small buildings or apartments or land, and I would buy an office building. So sell on the margins, buy in the middle. And that became part of my model. Well, my rifle, right? Just do one thing and just be great at it, right? So that's what I started to do. Well, when I started to give, I was talking to Holly about it, and we're like, okay, time to start giving some money, rather than, a few dollars here and there. And we were talking about how to figure that out, and we were praying about it. And it came to me like, oh, I already have the model for it. Like, be a rifle, don't be a shotgun. Cause I was given, everybody would call and I go, yeah, here. So then I got really involved in education. And, that, for people that know me, that's kind of funny because I was not a great student, but I became, self-educated, but I became really a big proponent of education. So that's where Holly and I focused our philanthropy, was on education. And I got involved with schools that Father Waters was starting and helped him, all along the way. And gosh, I have so many great stories that, where God was so present in all the things that we were doing. But I used that and I said, here's what I'm going to do. 90% of what I'm going to give, I'm going to give to my church, and we're going to give to education. And I got really involved in that. And so, over time, I felt like I could make a bigger impact if I was a rifle instead of a shotgun, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, I meet Tom and Father White. That's a funny story, actually. I don't know if you care to hear about that, but, then I, got involved in Nativity and, loved every moment of it.
Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one conversation, or one weekend for a parish to begin moving in a new direction. That's why Rebuilt Parish has launched our Rebuilt Speakers Network. Whether it's a parish mission, a diocesan event, or a strategic offsite with your staff, our team helps Catholic leaders step back, focus on what matters most, and leave with a vision for what is possible. And beginning this fall, Tom Corcoran will be traveling to parishes to speak about our latest book, Jesus, the Rich Young Man, and the Meaning of Life. This presentation will help your whole parish grow deeper in their relationship with Jesus in a culture filled with distractions. If you'd like to bring a Rebuilt speaker to your parish or diocese, email me, Colleen@rebuiltparish.com, to learn more and to book your speaker today.
Well, it's interesting when I think people, like, for church workers here or anybody who's trying to raise money, understanding, I think a lot of, again, business people or marketplace people like yourself, they're going to bring whatever that background is into how they approach the giving. I think that's a common theme I've seen many times. So I just think that's something it's important for people to understand, because a lot of times, and as a ministry person, you often have to understand what is that perspective they're bringing and how do I kind of connect those dots. So anyway, I think that's a great example of that. Anything else you wanted to say about, again, and then maybe you don't remember, but you had thoughts on, things about how people go about it. It sounded like you were either going to talk about how people ask you to give, good or bad, or any other thoughts about your approach.
Well, Holly and I decided that most of what we were going to give when we started giving was education. And, we started helping underprivileged kids with education. We just thought that was really important. And then I'd never really been involved with growing up with the various Catholic churches that I was involved with, or where my kids were going to school a little bit, but nothing in a major way. But when well, I'll just tell you how this relationship started was we heard about Nativity and how great Nativity was. And this was, gosh, I don't know. This was probably, I want to say somewhere around 2000, maybe. I don't know. Like, when did you guys start there, Tom?
I started in 97. So, but it was probably a few years in. So probably,
yeah, so it was a couple years in. And my kids were at a local Catholic school. And so we heard about Nativity, and they have a kids program. And so we started going to Nativity, and they had like a little room where they would take some of the kids. And so we started going there. And then the Nativity was actually had a program with the school where my three daughters were going. My three daughters went to one Catholic school, and then my son, who was a little younger, he came later. He went to a different Catholic school. And anyway, Nativity had a relationship with this Catholic school. And Tom had he was running, what were they, like little mixers or something?
Yeah, for youth ministry, yep.
Yeah, and anyway, so one of my daughters was there, and they had an issue, and Tom like stepped in, and that's how I met Tom. He, there was like an issue that my daughter had, and Tom stepped in and told me, anyway, it was a protector, and we just kind of bonded over that. And then, and I think that may have even been how I started going to Nativity, but we started going to Nativity, and we heard about this pastor there. This guy's like off the charts. Like, you got to go to Nativity. This guy, might have been Tom, told me, you gotta,
no, it wasn't me. I wouldn't tell you that.
So somebody said, oh, you gotta, this pastor's like so different and great. And okay. So Holly and I started going to Nativity, and it was like, yeah, I don't know. He was okay. Left, and we go, well, let's try it again. So we go back the following weekend instead of going to Immaculate. I was trying not to name names. So we go back to Nativity, and we're like, yeah, this pastor, like, yeah, it was all right. Okay. We went back a third time. Same as like, I don't know, like, I heard this was like, they had this great pastor here, and okay. So we went back a fourth time, and they had a different priest. And this priest just like, Holly and I afterwards were like, oh my God, like that was so different. And so it turned out, we thought Father White was the first 3 weeks. We had no idea. And we just thought that was Father White. Well, Father White wasn't until the fourth week. And I didn't even think that was him. We thought Father White was the other priest. And we're like, oh my God, I got to find out who this guy is. Like, he's new, because like he had been off for 3 weeks. I don't know what happened, but we just happened to hit the mass might have been Saturday at 5 o'clock mass. I don't know. Right. But anyway, so we hear Father White. And we're like, oh my, I didn't know it was him. And then, so I had to get a bulletin, and I was like, who is this priest? And I couldn't find it in the bulletin. I asked somebody, and they go, oh, that's Father White. I go, that's Father White. I thought the other guy was Father White. So anyway, and we've been going there ever since. So
amazing.
Now, what was the original question? I don't even remember.
I re-asked the question, and maybe it was the same one. So I was seeing if there's anything else. That's good. That's good. I guess I'm thinking, Wayne, I am now like sitting in your space, right? This is an office. Hopefully it's okay, like that you're letting us use, right? And you've donated to us. I was thinking a little bit too, how as a building guy, like you're always saying that, yeah, look for space, because they're not making any more of it, right? In the real estate, and how you are generous with this space. So I continue to just think about how it does come out of who you are, and how you are generous with people off of your own kind of, again, the authenticity is important. Your business experience, your experience, and just that flows out of who you are. So I guess maybe I should have just made that point and not asked that question. But
well, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I do have a
question. Get us back on track. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Wayne, as somebody who is a philanthropist, what would you recommend to the pastors and parish leaders who maybe they're a little nervous about asking for gifts? What would you recommend? What would you maybe say to kind of help them overcome that?
Well, I would say just be authentic, first of all, because I've been involved in quite a few schools and the advancement programs of several schools. And I realized this early on, that whoever's asking for money, they have to be authentic, number one. And number two, I mean, it's real simple. Like, people ask me this from schools and, why are we not raising money? I go, it's so simple. You got to be authentic, number one. And number two, you have to have someone calling to ask for money who someone will not say no to and wants to be with, genuinely, like wants to associate or know that person if they don't know them, or have a conversation with them. Hey, I've seen you in action. I like you as a person. I want to know more about you. Like, there has to be an authentic connection. And I've seen so many institutions that I've been involved with. And if you have the wrong development person, like it can just be a disaster. And I'm no, genius, but, I've been doing it long enough. Like, I can just tell if someone's going to be successful or not. And there's really just a simple litmus test. Like, if you're in development or you're trying to raise money or get parishioners or whatever, you have to be authentic. And if someone who doesn't know you, knows of you, will take your call and take a meeting, right, or not. And I can't tell you how many development directors or people associated with whatever charity, there's many of them who are easy to say no to. And, people who give, people who give like to give, but, not too many people give till it hurts, including me. Like, like I'm trying to, I just can't get there, but maybe someday. But you have to be authentic, and you have to be someone who, when you call someone else, they will meet with you because they genuinely want to know you, hear about you, and there's some mystery or interest. And it really just comes from authenticity. And if somebody's not authentic about what they're doing, most people who are giving kind of know that. They can smell it. And if someone is easy to say no to, they are not the right development person. They're not the right person to ask for money. So that's the way I would,
Wayne, I think a lot of these people listening to this are going to be pastors who have to ask, honestly. And so be authentic in the pulpit, be authentic in your relationships with people, be somebody people like and want to connect with. And I think a lot of pastors have to hear a lot. Your people are coming to your church because they probably do like you and they do want to hear what you have to say. And so they're going to be very happy to have a meeting with you. One of our encouragements as the pastors is just go have lunch with people who can help you and will want to give to the church and build those relationships, those authentic connections like you're talking about.
I agree 100%. And fear of asking or it kind of runs both ways, right? Like, someone who may give at any level, particularly a priest, they're usually not going to say no to. So for a priest to have fear of asking a parishioner to give is really ill-founded, because people are going to give if they want, but the key is not to make people feel guilty about it, because if there's no guilt, which is a bad thing, that person who said no might go away and have some compunction about, I didn't give. But once they pray on it, or something happens in their life and they, do a great business deal, or they come into some money, or somehow, they're going to remember the authenticity of someone who asked them. And I mean, I learned to try to get rid of fear a long time ago. I just think it's such a negative emotion. I can't say I'm never fearful of certain things, but I try to go into things and go, all right, whatever, God's going to work out here, he's going to work out. And I think from a pastor's standpoint, I mean, the parishioners are, or anybody like Tom, like you, going out and asking money of people, there's, some level of fear on both sides. But I would say, I would, from the church standpoint, I would say, I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to have any fear. It's just like, hey, ask. A lot of people are going to say no. Some are going to say yes. I don't want to belittle it, but to some degree, it's a numbers game, right? Like, you ask 100 people, I don't know what the numbers are, 2 or 20 are going to give, but it's really just putting the time and effort into it and the authenticity. It's pretty simple, really, because people think you're authentic and you're giving great homilies. And, like when I first started going to Nativity, I was like, this is Father White? Like, I don't know. But then I realized, oh, no, wait a minute. That wasn't Father White. This is Father White. Oh, okay. I get it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay. So it's really just being authentic. And, like if I was a priest or I was Tom, like I would have zero fear about asking people, because the church is putting out such a great product. And I don't want to belittle, Christianity or Catholicism, but it's just such a great experience for everyone. Like there shouldn't be any compunction whatsoever about going to people and saying, hey, can you help? And the ones that can will, and the ones that won't, but the ones that, come around will come around. And, you plant a seed, it might be a year or two, they inherit money or they get a promotion or whatever. And then, but there's nothing better. Like I tell my kids, nothing better than giving, like giving time and treasure.
Amazing. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to pour into our listeners, to our parish leaders, and especially our pastors. I think that final, just basically a mic drop of wisdom on them, of be authentic and don't be afraid, I think is just something that they're going to be able to take to heart and put into practice in their own parishes. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate the time being with you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was great. I love it too, because I learned some stuff about you I never knew. So it's awesome. It's great to have you on. Thanks.
I always enjoy talking to you, Tom. I've learned a lot from Tom over the years. We've had some great conversations. Yeah, he's a wise man. With 8 kids.
I know, wild.
How does he do that?
I have no idea. He's got 4 times as many kids as I do. I don't know how he does it.
Right. I don't know. No wonder he works out all the time. He's got to be in good shape to handle that.
Well, Wayne, thank you again. Thank you for sharing authentically, and we are so grateful for you.
Thank you. Grateful for you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Tom. Great to be with you.